I want to tell you something that took me a long time to accept. The people who are quietly building serious wealth do not look like what you see on a thumbnail. They do not have a 5-hour morning routine. They are not waking up at 4:30 to meditate and cold plunge and journal and visualize their goals. They are doing something far less interesting, and far more effective. They have a small number of specific habits that run automatically, that take almost no time, and that compound so quietly over years that nobody around them notices until the gap between where they are and where everyone else is becomes impossible to ignore. This video is about those habits. Not the ones designed to look impressive on social media. The ones that actually work. Habit 1. They track, but they do not obsess. Here is the difference. Obsessive tracking means checking your portfolio 3 times a day, reading every price movement as a signal, making decisions based on the anxiety that constant monitoring creates. That is not tracking. That is a compulsion, and it destroys returns, as we covered in video 4. Deliberate tracking means recording your net worth, your total invested amount, and your monthly investable gap once a week. In under 2 minutes, and then not looking at it again until next week. The notebook does not need to be sophisticated. The habit needs to be consistent. What gets measured gets managed, but only if the measurement is calm, infrequent, and followed by no immediate action. People who track obsessively make more trades and earn lower returns. People who track deliberately make fewer decisions and build more wealth. The notebook is the tool. The discipline is in closing it. Habit 2. They are aggressively protective of their financial attention. The financial media ecosystem, social media, news cycles, influencer content, is almost entirely optimized for engagement, not accuracy. It rewards alarm, urgency, and the feeling that you need to act right now. And every time a serious investor is pulled into that ecosystem and makes a reactive decision, it costs them. Not dramatically. Quietly. A small erosion of their system. A trade that should not have happened. A panic sell at the wrong moment. An allocation shift driven by anxiety rather than thesis. The hidden wealth habit here is not a tool or a strategy. It is a decision about information diet. What sources do you consume? How often? And is every source genuinely improving your decisions, or just making you feel informed while eroding your discipline? Most investors could cut their financial information consumption by 80% and see their returns improve. The noise is expensive. Habit 3. They make their most important financial decisions before they need to make them. This is one of the least discussed and most powerful habits in the entire list, because it removes the single most destructive variable in investing, the emotional state at the moment of decision. Every investor knows they should not sell during a crash. Almost every investor has sold during a crash, because in the moment, the crash feels different from how they imagined it. The emotions are real and they are loud. The solution is not more willpower. It is a written decision rule, created when you are calm, that tells you exactly what to do in the scenario you are currently experiencing. A rule that says, if the market drops 30%, I increase my DCA, I do not exit, does not feel like a rule when you are writing it. It feels like common sense. But when you are inside a 30% drawdown, that rule is the difference between a disciplined decision and an emotional one. Write the rules. Commit to them in writing. Follow them when they feel wrong. Habit 4. They measure wealth differently from everyone around them. Most people measure their financial position by their bank balance, what is in the account right now. This is the most misleading financial metric that exists. It captures one snapshot of one account and tells you almost nothing about your financial trajectory. The hidden wealth habit is a different measurement entirely. Net worth, total assets minus total liabilities, updated monthly. And within net worth, one specific submetric, the freedom number. The point at which your invested assets generate enough passive income to cover your core living expenses. You may be years from that number. But the moment you can calculate it and track it monthly, your relationship with money changes fundamentally. You stop measuring how much you have spent. You start measuring how much you have built. The bank balance tells you where you are today. The freedom number tells you where you are going. Track the one that moves in the right direction. Habit 5. Once a year, they have one structured conversation with someone who knows more than they do. Not monthly. Not every time the market moves. Once. Every year. This is the habit that most self-directed investors either overdo, checking in constantly, paying for ongoing advice they do not need, or skip entirely, building in blind spots that compound silently. The annual financial review with a qualified professional does three things. It confirms that the investment architecture is still appropriate for the investor's current life stage and goals. It identifies any tax, legal, or structural issues that the investor's own systems have not caught. And it provides external validation, or challenge, of the investor's thesis at the most important moments. One conversation. 30 to 60 minutes. Prepared with the notebook, the net worth calculation, and the decision rules. The professional is not there to manage your money. They are there to review the system you are managing and flag anything you cannot see from inside it. Habit 6. The pivot. And this one is the most psychologically demanding of everything on this list, because it runs directly against human nature. The people who build wealth quietly are almost universally comfortable being financially misunderstood by the people around them. They do not drive the car that signals their net worth. They do not wear the watch that announces their investment returns. They do not post the portfolio screenshot or the income milestone or the lifestyle upgrade. Not because they are hiding anything. Because they have understood something that took most of them years to learn. External validation of your financial decisions is one of the most expensive things you can buy. The moment you start making financial decisions based on how they look to other people, the visible upgrade, the public milestone, the impressive sounding strategy, you have handed control of your financial system to an audience that does not know your numbers, does not share your goals, and will not be there when the consequences arrive. Build in private. Track privately. Let the system do the talking, in the only language that matters. The numbers. Habit 7. The last one. And in some ways the most important, because it is the only habit that makes all the others survive contact with real life. They return to the system after every disruption. A hard month comes and the DCA gets missed. A life event pulls attention away from the financial architecture for 6 weeks. A market drop triggers a moment of doubt that delays one quarterly review. None of this is failure. All of it is normal. The habit is not perfect execution. The habit is the speed of return. The person who misses 1 month of DCA and resumes the next month has barely lost anything. The person who misses 1 month and then decides the system is broken and waits for a better time to restart has potentially lost years. Every financial system will be disrupted. External events, internal emotions, life complexity, all of it will test the architecture at some point. The only variable that determines long-term outcomes is this one. When the system is disrupted, how quickly do you return to it? That is the hidden habit. That is the one nobody puts on a thumbnail. And that is the one that, over 10 years, separates the people who built something from the people who almost did. 7 habits. None of them glamorous. None of them worth a thumbnail. All of them structural, and all of them working quietly in the background of every person who has built something real. The notebook. The curated information diet. The pre-written decision rules. The freedom number. The annual professional conversation. The comfort with being financially invisible. The speed of return after disruption. Subscribe to Wealthverse. Next week I am going somewhere uncomfortable. The 6 financial mistakes that are keeping genuinely smart, educated, capable people financially stuck, not because they do not know better, but because the mistakes are disguised as good decisions. These are the ones that hurt the most to see. Because you will recognize yourself in at least one of them. I will see